My name is Rodrick Smith. I'm here with a video on systemic racism. I'm going to be asking people public interviews. I'm going to be doing public interviews. I'm just going to be asking them a few questions about racism they dealt with or what they experienced. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience growing up. So I came from Park Hill. I moved to the west side, but in Park Hill, I experienced racism because I went to white schools, and like you can see that with white schools, white kids they did have more privilege than black kids. Like they'll set certain rules. The white kids will get like, let's say like they'll get off like with a strike, and then we'll get detention if we messed up one time. And this was middle school and not really much of elementary. But then coming into high school, I have dealt with some racism at my high school. Being called the ER word and out of my name, and people taking it as a joke, like it's just a word. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And also in public, we get lots of looks, and like I felt about racism. Like racism really shouldn't be a thing that's even important. Like it shouldn't even be a subject right now. Like we should all get along with each other and work together. There's no need to hate someone for no reason, really. Like you just ask somebody why you hate the color of our skin. They won't be able to tell you why they hate us. We ain't did anything. But yeah, that's my opinion on racism, and let's get into it.
Hi, my name's Keith McVaney, and doing an interview for Rodrick Smith around racism. And he's asked me to just speak to maybe racism that I've experienced or seen others have to go through different pieces of racism. And so I work with an organization called Save Our Youth. And unfortunately, I work with a number of people and groups that experience racism on a daily basis. And so part of what I like to do and my hopes is to break down racism in different pieces that I see happening to groups of folks that are holding them back that shouldn't, just because of the color of their skin, the way they talk, and things like that. And so for me, I think I haven't experienced racism against myself personally. I've heard of other folks that say they've been discriminated against because of that other people have been hired in front of them by a minority that maybe wasn't as qualified as themselves. I have not experienced that. What I have experienced is some of my own prejudice and racism, not towards, I guess, a particular race, but for me personally, it was around 9/11 and the Muslim community. I think our culture and the United States put something out there that made me think that it was this group of people that were against America, against me personally, in the sense that they hated us as a Muslim community. And it took me to get to know Muslim people and see them personally to break down my racism against them. And so once I got to know them and see them as people that don't hate America, that don't hate me, then and I got to know their heart and who they are, that they're caring people. They love a God too. It might not be the same God as the one that I love, but we have similar hearts for spirituality as well. And so that helped break down my prejudice and racism towards the Muslim community. As far as seeing other people have to deal with racism and hatred towards their race or group, unfortunately, I see too often, whether it's Hispanic, African American, other groups that are in this country, where we should just be what they call the melting pot, and everybody is here together. Unfortunately, I see folks that, because of the color of their skin, are profiled, for one, and can't drive down the street without just having the freedom that I have. I can drive down the street, and if I'm speeding, then yes, I deserve to get pulled over and maybe given a ticket for speeding. However, there are folks that just drive down the street and get pulled over for doing nothing, just sitting at a stop sign, and then they'll make up a story, and it's because the color of their skin, and so they're being profiled, and I get that a lot, stories from people that have to deal with that, and that just breaks my heart that it's that different, where they don't have the same freedoms as I would have to just drive down the street, as opposed, even I would say walking down the street, they can be profiled in a way that I believe white folks don't have to deal with, and so it opens my eyes and makes me realize that things need to be different, things need to change, and that I have to think about, okay, what are ways that I can help to make a change in that, and I think this is one. I like to work with people that aren't the same as me, so I can get a better understanding of what it might be like for them, and so I appreciate the opportunity for Rodrick to ask me questions about this, and I believe it's just a step towards something that I can do to help the cause and hopefully break down racism as a whole.
My name is Rodrick. I'm doing a video on systemic racism. I'm going to just be asking you a few questions about racism you dealt with, your opinion, and can I start off with getting your name?
My name is Jamal, and I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and got 2 kids, they half and half, so they look a little lighter shade of brown, So yeah, you want me to tell you a little something about what exactly? Can you ask me that again? I didn't hear you say.
Racism, like you dealt with, or your opinion?
Okay. Yeah, no, racism is real, and it's not fake, and it's not something that's like they be saying, oh, black people just complain a lot. Nah, you gotta be in Colorado and be black, and you'll know it. Go to any job, in any entry-level position, go into that job as a black person, and you'll see it very quick, especially where we're at in the west side of town, where there's not as many black people. You get singled out a lot when you're at work. They will say things that they wouldn't say if there was more black people, in the room. They'll push the limits for sure. They'll definitely say things that they shouldn't say just because you're the minority, and you'll always be treated a little step down. And this is just my personal opinion because of what I've been through in Colorado, and racism that is very prevalent across the nation, and especially in Colorado. I don't know if people know this, that the KKK had a big branch in Colorado Springs, and a lot of government had Klans members in them. We're talking firemen, policemen, people in the government. A lot of people were in the ones that are making the laws were in the Klan, and they can say, "Oh, that was back in." Let me tell you, racism is generational because they show their kids how to be racist, which is one of the worst things you could do. And they just keep it going because they want their bloodline to be pure, whatever it is. But instead of stopping it, they show the kids the bad way, and then it just keeps going. So even though those people from back in the day aren't here, they showed their kids, and then their kids showed their kids, and it just keeps trickling down. And yeah, so I've been called nigger many times. I've been called nigger, I'm gonna say it because, I've been called nigger since I was 4, 5, all the way till, this year at some point. My son was 8 when he got called nigger the first time on the school bus because he was out here, like I said, in we're the minority in the west side of Colorado right now, and we're not in the black neighborhoods,
Alright, so can you tell me a little bit about some racism you dealt with on your job?
You're an idiot. Oh, yeah.
Alright, yeah,
my bad. Can you give me a couple examples of racism you dealt with on your job?
Oh yeah, I'll give you a couple examples. There's so many. So, first of all, at my job, I'm a good worker, so I was actually promoted, and they had a real problem with listening to a black dude. I'll just say that. Anytime a black man gets into that position of authority, other races, in my opinion, in Colorado, in my personal opinion, what happened to me, they didn't like that. They didn't matter if it was a white dude or a Mexican dude. They were cool with that. But then me being a black person, I thought that was not my attitude. I had the best attitude. I'm always being nice and all that. It was just because I was black, and I don't care what anybody says. It was that. I'm not trying to pity party. It was that. I had people calling me names. We'll just say people were saying names in Spanish to me for years. I had no idea what they were saying until somebody else came to my attention and said, "Don't let them call you that anymore because it means this or that." So it's been a lot of racism that I've attributed to me because where I lived, I think, in not so predominantly black areas, because when I was in the predominantly black areas, there was not that much racism opposed to the cops. Now, if you want to get to when I was in a black neighborhood, when I lived in the east side, the only racism that I've ever dealt with was from the cops. They literally pulled me over 3 different times in one night. I had my tags, had everything up to par. You know, I know how to be black and drive at night being black, so I know you can't be driving with your lights out. So I checked everything. There was nothing wrong. Got stopped 3 times. I was with my brother one of the times, and they asked him, my brother's white. You know, that's my brother. I call him brother. We grew up together. They said, "Why are you with him?" And we looked at the cop like, that's my brother. He's like, "No, what are you doing with him tonight? What are you guys doing?" Like, we were driving home from the gym, and he thought I was selling him drugs. And then I got stopped again with him in the car from a black police officer, and they are just as bad as stereotypical. He's like, he comes to the car door. Don't laugh. He comes to the car door and he literally looks at me, trying to be cool. "What up, Pimp Juice?" And I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And I was like, "I just got pulled over." And he's like, "Well, I'm pulling you over, too." Or he didn't say why he pulled me over. I asked him why he pulled me over, and he said, "Well, we'll get to that." Got all my information, same thing I just did, and there was nothing wrong. I was like, "Well, what did you pull me over for after I did this?" And he's like, "Well, your light on your license plate's out." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, there's no light." And then he's like, "Oh, whatever, you're free to go." I'm like, "Cool, that's crazy." As soon as he said I'm free to go, I said, Can I pop out and check my license plate?" He's like, yeah. So as I'm getting out, he gets in his car and he dips real quick. I look at my license plate light, the light's on. There's nothing. He just blatantly lies to my face, drives off, and I'm like, whatever. Drop off my brother on the way home once again. But I lived in the east side. I lived on 32nd and Marion, so I lived right up in it. And I got pulled over again. And this time the cop comes to the car, and I'm mad. I'm heated. I'm hot. I'm like, I got a ticket from the first cop for some bogus I didn't turn stuff. I got pulled over again, and now you're pulling me over. I said, "This is ridiculous." I said, "You guys pulled me over 3 times, and you guys are stereotyping me because I'm black, driving a 91 Honda in predominantly black, maybe a bad neighborhood. What is the reason for pulling me over?" He's like, "Oh, whatever." He insisted that it wasn't that, but it was. There's no justification on pulling the same person over 3 times. I know they aren't in cahoots, but that goes to show I was targeted. That is literally the definition of being targeted. I didn't see everybody else getting pulled over crazy. Me, 3 times in one night. But yeah, there's a couple examples.
Hey, thank you. Hopefully the racism you deal with. Alright, thank you for your time. Sorry I was messing up a little bit in the video. I was stuttering a lot. But hopefully your situations get better. I wasn't wording stuff right, that's the only reason why. But
Alright, my name is Rodrick. I'm here with a video on systemic racism. I'm just going to be asking you a few questions, like your personal experience with racism and your opinion. So can I start off getting your name?
Yeah, my name is Rick Brewer. I'm assistant principal, board administrator in different public schools.
Hey, can you tell me some experience you have with racism?
Yeah, I think for me, I've mostly dealt with structural oppression that is created by racism. So, and it's been most evident throughout my educational journey. And I can most readily think about it or acknowledge it or seen instances of it in probably my undergraduate pursuits. So when I was in college, certain students having one set of expectations, and then I have an increased level of expectations just for being a black student athlete, and I didn't think that was necessarily equitable. Or I'll tell you about a time when I was 3 credits away from finishing my major, and my advisor made the suggestion that I switch my major to history rather than economics with only 3 credits left. I mean, that's obnoxious. So yeah, structural oppression is mostly what I've dealt with, Rod.
Okay. And can you tell me your opinion on racism?
Yeah, I think racism is a product of 2 things. I think superiority and inferiority. So I think the 2 coexist in the mind of a racist. You see someone as that you're better than them, but you also internally may have an inferiority complex. I think the work that's been done over the last 6 months in advancement of civil rights for marginalized groups has really highlighted a lot of the structural oppression that was already there. I think the civil rights movement continues, but I will say this, that any individuals that feel like we're going to just completely eradicate racism and they're not going to be satisfied until that's done, I think are misguided. And I don't believe that we'll be able to globally ever eliminate racism. I think people will always be racist. What we need to do, though, is continue to minimize the impact that racism has on society. That's my opinion.
Okay. So can you tell me like a little bit about how you feel about everything going on, like 2020, like Black Lives Matter movement, police brutality?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time this summer following the death of George Floyd, doing what I can to empower the black community. Spoke at several rallies, thousands of people, and so I feel like I got to have my voice heard, and not to speak for the whole black community, but I think I represented a pretty large percentage of it in their feelings. I do believe that economic disruption is going to be the only thing that will even the playing field for us. I think black people have, or I know for a fact that black people have the highest spending power out of any other population on the globe, I believe. Yet we spend our money in other communities, and that's because, and it's not because we have a lack of businesses. I think we view other races, businesses as more professional and higher quality, and I think we kind of, for lack of a better word, crap on our own people. What I think about Black Lives Matter, I think Black Lives Matter should have added one simple word at the end that would have made it a little more difficult for the all lives matter people to refute, which is Black Lives Matter too. And what you're saying by that means, you know, not other lives don't not matter, but Black Lives Matter too. And it's hard to say all lives matter to that, but you can say all lives matter to Black Lives Matter. It's real easy. But if you say Black Lives Matter too, that's a little harder to refute. And then the last thing I want to say is I'm very, very disappointed in how the star players of the NBA handled the crisis while they were in the bubble. I think when LeBron threatened to leave the bubble, that was the most progress we got in the whole movement. And they pacified him. They pacified LeBron by telling him that they were going to make some deal. They opened up the bubble to the families, and they basically made him shut up and dribble, and that's what he did. So, for me, LeBron's GOAT factor dissipated when that happened. So I wasn't looking at LeBron as a GOAT based on his championships. When you think of what the greatest of all time means, Muhammad Ali sets the standard for that. He gave up his boxing career to oppose the Vietnam War. And I'm not asking LeBron to make that same sacrifice, but I am saying he didn't have to leave the bubble to make a statement. He could have stayed in the bubble and brought in all the civil rights experts in order to really tackle this problem in the bubble. Then he went and got ridiculed for it and say, hey, we're going to host a symposium in this bubble, and this is how we're going to take this on. So that's how I feel. I know that was a long answer, but hopefully it's helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any thing you want to add or say?
No, I just think that the young man doing this interview is an awesome young dude. He's a good kid, and shout out to you, Rod Smith.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for your time again. Have a good day.
Take care, brother. You want me to send you the recording?
My name is Melanie Smith, and I'll be talking to you about systemic racism and racism that I have experienced in my life. The first thing that really, I live out southwest Denver, and like when we moved out here, it was like really different because there wasn't many black people out here. But it was one day when it was me and my boys on the bus, and this lady, she was with her, whoever she was with, but my son got up to look out the window, and she got upset because I guess she thought he was messing with her friend or whatever, and she started calling us niggers and monkeys and all kind of different things. And it was like, it was hurtful, but it was like, you know, I spoke the word of God, and she just kept going at it. But it was like, for somebody to talk to you or feel like you're not, you know, you're calling you out of your name and you're with your children, that really hurt my feelings. But it's like, I know who I am in Christ. But it's like, later on, I cried because it's like, for somebody to sit there, it was a Hispanic woman, someone to sit there and say those things to me and my children, like, you know, we're not equal to them or whatever. It really hurt my feelings. And it's like, when we first moved out here, the King Supers and stuff over on Federal and Bellevue, you know, I would go into that King Supers and people would treat me mean and just had a bad attitude and stuff, and it was just a bad situation for me. And I don't go to that King Supers a lot. And then also it was another time when my son, he came out here to where we live, picked us up, and we went and was celebrating my graduation. And we was going to get some ice cream from King Supers, and I forgot what King Supers he went to. And I'm disabled, and my son he dropped me and my other son off, and we went into the store, and then I guess he parked in the handicap zone or whatever, and some lady harassed him and called the police on him because he was parked in the handicap zone. So he came in the store and got me. And I ended up losing my accessory book and everything. But we came back out. I showed the lady my little thing that I did have a placard, but he didn't have the placard up. But it's like, why did they have to call the police for someone being parked in a handicap zone, or even my son being harassed? Young black man being harassed for being in the handicap zone or whatever. And it's like, I think people it's basically hatred, and people need to just search their hearts and stop hating against each other and know that, we're all equal. We're all human, all of that, and created by the same God. And we need to love and care for each other, and all of the things that is happening in the streets, the protesting and all of those things, that's not helping anything. And we need to just ask the Lord to forgive us and turn our hearts back to God and just love each other. And just all of this stuff that is going on, even the things that our children are learning in schools, it's like teaching them about, black kids always have to learn about slavery and all of those different things. And then they have they learning about the Feminist Act and all of those things. That stuff leads to hatred also. So it's like, if we just come together and just sit down and talk and help each other and not think that anybody is better than anybody and have equal rights and all of that stuff, if we just work together, I think, and just trust God for our help, things will get better. Thank you.
My name is Rodrick Smith. I'm a black man. Was born and raised in America. Originally from Colorado, Denver, Colorado. Spent my whole life out here. Me being a black man, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. We have to deal with people's prejudices and, people not really understanding where we're coming from because they don't know our lifestyle or our culture. Out here in America, I feel like we lost a lot of our culture due to us being detached from our culture. And due to that, we have to adapt to these American ways. But us doing so, you would think that we'll have the courtesies of Americans or non-blacks or non-minorities to actually understand our point of views. Systemic racism is a big thing, from redlining to us not being able to get the loans that most people can receive. Most black households, we're not taught about money or credit or how to build a legacy. It's not taught in our schools. We're not being taught. We have to self-teach ourselves. I really haven't, dealt with systemic racism as much as most people have, but I see it all around the world, around the news with the cops killing blacks, homeless blacks, the redlining with the homes and everything, from the suburbs to blacks in poverty, all types of stuff. I feel like we need to change. We definitely do need to change because we're supposed to be equals. But we're not treated equals. There's some systems set into place for us to fail. These private prisons is filling up all of our black men. Keeping us away from our kids. saying? That's what we're not being taught, right? You know, and then just the prejudging of a black man, you know what I'm saying, through some other races, you know, it sticks with them from generation to generation. We need more progressive thinkers, and we need, you know, people to understand our ways of lives. Um, yeah, yeah. Being black in America, it can be a hassle, but it's also a blessing. I like being black. I wouldn't have it any other way, you know. As Decal, I am a fifth generation Colorado native, and my family is actually one of the first black families to move to Colorado after it became a state. What I think about systemic racism, I don't think that is a thing of the past. It's something that still very much happens to many people today. Even in day-to-day interactions where you work, you're more likely to be passed up for a job opportunity or could be less likely to get a job as a result of systemic racism. Obviously, it's still an issue with police and police brutality as well as politics, and it really shapes and affects every facet of American and international life. So that's what I think about systemic racism.
Alright, my name is Rodrick. I'm here with a video on systemic racism, and I'm just going to be asking you a few questions about your personal experience with systemic racism. Alright, so can you start off saying your name?
Hi, everybody. My name is Rodrick Smith. I'm Rod's big brother. I got to talk about whatever questions he asked me on racism. It is big in America, and I love to talk about it.
Alright, so can you tell me your opinion on racism or systemic racism?
Systematic racism, to me, is pretty much an empowerment type of thing where they keep other sections or races, color, however you want to say it, in a position where they're not overthrown. That's what I feel like that means to me.
Alright, so can you tell me some of your experience with racism?
Some of my experience with racism is just being a black man in America, walking down the street, and any type of clothes I wear, it doesn't really play a part in what I do, unless the person actually knows who I am. So, from the stereotypes, stuff like that, it'll be hard for them to understand who I am. So, they have to know me before they can really judge me, but they don't do that. They just go off of what other people say about your skin color or your section.
And can you tell me about some racism that you've seen?
Some racism that I seen was when, for example, walking around in Walmart by myself. I'm 22 years old, but I look like I'm 15, 16. Get that a lot. You get followed by store security, get called over the intercom, go to this section where I'm at. If I'm by myself, you can see a pee behind the corner, act like they're shopping in the same aisle as I am. And I don't know if this really a racism thing or just you could say it's systematic racism because everybody, not everybody, but some people, they see people in the different race categories as either good or bad. If you're in that category of being black, not being bad, black, you're already going to be targeted as violent or thief or somebody that's barbaric. So you will be followed.
Okay. Well, thank you. Hopefully your situations get better. Is there anything you would like to add?
Don't really got much to say about it. just say, try to live every day to the fullest. Understand where racism comes from and why they did it.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Have a good night. Alright, what's up? My name is Rodrick. I'm here with a video on systemic racism, and I'm just going to be asking you a few questions about racism you dealt with, and etc. Could I start off with getting your name?
Okay. My name is Jamel Dallas. Was 11th grade, go to George Washington High School.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about some racism that you dealt with?
Racism I dealt with. So middle school, went to school. I'm not gonna say the school yet, but I went to a school and I had a teacher who she didn't like black people, and she made it clear. And then he told the principal about it because she was just messing with us for no reason. She just kept us out of her class for no reason, always thinking that we was making noise when we were just chilling. And we told the the principal, he's like, yeah, she doesn't like black people, so I'm gonna have to take her out of that class. So basically, I had to take her class for like 2-3 years before they actually took me out of the class, and I had to deal with her for her racism.
Can you tell me some, can you tell me your opinion on racism?
I mean, nobody really likes racism, except for people that are actually, like, racist. But my opinion on racism is, what is the point? We're all the same. We're just different color.
Right. And what is, how do you feel about everything that's going on in the world 2020 with racism right now? And yeah.
Racism right now is just out of control, man. It's just out of control. It doesn't make any sense how many people can think the way they do and act the way they act towards a person just because they're different from them. Like, bro, it don't make no sense. Like, you should just all get along instead of just half of them go at each other's throats every week or every month, you feel me, or every day.
Right.
It's just not okay.
Alright, so thank you for your time. Hopefully your situations get better, and thanks again. Alright, my name is Rodrick. I'm here with a video on systemic racism, so I'm just be interviewing you. So could I start off with getting your name?
My name is Melvin Page.
What city do you live in?
Denver, Colorado.
Alright, now can you just tell me a little bit about some racism that you dealt with?
Racism that I dealt with. One time I was at the mall and I was with my friend, and this woman kept following us when we were in a specific store. And then as we would go around the store, she followed us. But that's probably the closest thing to racism I've encountered.
Now can you tell me your opinion on racism?
My opinion on racism is a good question. I just think we just all get along. At this point, we've been on this earth for this amount of time, and they've seen a lot of African Americans, Hispanic, people of color in general, and I think it's just time for them to adapt, because it don't make no sense for you not to, for you to hate a specific ethnicity.
Alright. Okay, thank you. That was this video. Thank you for your time. Alright, hi, my name is Rodrick. I'm here with a video on systemic racism. I'm going to just be asking you a few questions about your thoughts and opinions on racism you dealt with. So, could I start out getting your name?
Yeah, my name is George or Jorge. I go to John F. Kennedy High School. I live in Denver, Colorado. And, yeah, so, uh, like, systemic racism, like, how I would see it, or how I've dealt with it, is like, you know, my ethnicity is Hispanic, so every time I go do something or something, you know, like, I get certain looks, I get, you know, like, it just feels uncomfortable, it just doesn't feel right.
Go. Can you tell me your opinion on racism?
Yeah, my opinion, I guess, why is it even a thing? Why does racism have, right? Why does racism have to judge like who people are? Why should someone have to fight for rights just because of the color of their skin?
Right.
It is just all the things going around in the world and stuff due to their race and all that. It's just, I don't know why the world has to go through all that.
Okay. And can you tell me about some racism you've seen?
Racism that I've seen, you know, just in everyday life, you know, like the way people get looked at because of their skin color, and you know, like even at school, like you hear people drop the N-bomb and all this stuff. It's just like they think it's a game. Like it's just not a good thing.
Alright. Alright, and can you tell me a little bit about how you feel about 2020, like with racism, Black Lives Matter, like the movements and all that? Like your opinion on it?
I just feel like this year has just been terrible, and with all this protesting and stuff, it's just, why should someone have to fight for their rights? This should already been a thing. There should be no like protesting just for them to like get recognized. This should already been a thing.
Right.
That no one should have to be going through the trauma and all the stuff that most people face just because of like what they do. It's like, I don't think it's right for people to just get killed for doing nothing. It's not right. And hopefully the world can change soon.
Alright, well, thank you for your time. Is there anything you would like to add?
Black lives do matter. It's not a joke. And if you see someone getting bullied, you should stop it.
Good. Well, thank you again. Have a good night.
You too.